Hello YouTubers, nice to see you again. I'm going to talk today a bit about mono. And one reason is of course because a week ago or so this box was released, the Beatles in mono. Of course when I bought the previous vinyl box I thought, well, probably, well, even hopefully, the mono box will be issued too. And then I started wondering, will I buy it? If so, and the question is, well, yes. I've been listening to it now and managed to form some sort of opinion about it. And one thing is for sure, Beatles, particularly the early Beatles, sound best in mono. It's meant to be in mono. But it's nothing new. It's just like with all the kind of 1960s rock and roll and pop music. It was recorded to listen to these rather cheap plastic mono gramophones, not meant to be played on big hi-fi systems. So the early pop music on vinyl sounds best on mono. That's how simple it is. And it was very interesting to especially hear the Sgt. Pepper issue on mono, and I can understand why people say that it's much better than the more famous stereo mix, because of course they used a lot more time to get it right, and more care. Also interesting to listen to the White Album, because it's interesting, but I'm not sure I really think that it's better, because there are some animalities on the mono album, just like the Don't Pass Me By with Ringo Starr, that seems a bit speeded up in the mono version. I'm not sure that I think that it's better. The early ones, like Please Please Me with the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, of course sounds better in mono. The stereo mixes on those albums have always been a bit, well, unsensitive, like placing all the instruments in one channel and vocals in one channel, and you can't really listen to it with headphones. So I made a long video about the previous Beatles box, and I went through album by album. I'm not going to do that now. Don't know if I'll do it later, but I've been listening to it. It's well worth the buy if you have the money. Yeah, and if you don't, most of the issues are worth having for the mono variations. It was fun to hear Revolver with like Taxman. Sounds much more powerful when it's all blended into one channel instead of being spread out like this. So yeah, I'm happy it was issued, and the pressings have been really great. No problem with the sound. I got the EU, the European Union, the European pressing. So hope the American pressing is much better than the ones that I heard about the previous box, that it was a bit bad. Right, let's talk mono. I have here 78 RPM. I'm sure you've seen one of these before. This is a Duke Ellington Black and Tan Fantasy, and this was of course originally recorded in mono, one channel, and of course the record players used to play it could only play one channel. And that's how it was until, well, mid to late 50s, when the big boom for stereo broke through. And first of all, the early stereo recordings of many classical albums with classical music are amazing, really amazing. So it was quite natural that people tried to make stereo versions of some of the popular pop music of the time. Yeah, but sometimes they went a bit too far. I have here Elvis Golden Records Volume 1. This is a pressing from the 1970s, but the original was issued in 1958 and it was issued in mono. So, mono became extremely obsolete in the late 60s, early 70s, and they started to take the old mono recordings and put some sort of stereo echo on when they issued old recordings. So it means that this album filled with hit tunes has a, well, rather horrible stereo echo that a bit makes Elvis sound like he's singing in the bathtub. Not that good. But, and this was RCA. You'll notice that I'll be talking a lot of RCA here. Pardon. But they were the only one, but they were definitely leading the trend. I have here a compilation album by Russ Colombo, a legendary performer. Russ Colombo was a singer, entertainer, and movie actor in the late 20s, early 1930s, and the recordings taken being used on this album are of course taken from 78 RPMs. Surely you wouldn't put some sort of stereo echo on old 78 RPM recordings. Let's see if you can read this. Stereo effect reprocessed from monophonic. Yes, they did. Why? Why did they do that? Of course, you can listen to mono records on the stereo equipment as well, no problem. I've listened to the Beatles box on my stereo equipment and no problem whatsoever. So why did they feel the urge to put some sort of stereo effect on old 78 RPM recordings? And this was extremely common, and this is also an RCA issue. We have here another RCA issue with my favorite loonies, Spike Jones and his City Slickers. Spike Jones is murdering the classics on RCA, the Gold Seal label. Look here. Stereo effect reprocessed from monophonic. Recordings from the 1940s and early 50s. Why? Why, oh why, oh why do they do this? Well, okay, I'm being a bit harsh against RCA, but I'm going to show you that they were not the only ones. Because here we have an album with Josh White, In Memoriam. It was issued after his death in 1969, and it was issued on the Tradition Everest label. These are recordings from the 1950 and 1951, a couple of years before they started making commercial stereo recordings. Check this. Stereo. Electronically re-recorded to simulate stereo. So there's some sort of stereo echo on this album as well. And there is no need for that. Why did they do it? Well, they were totally stereo crazy while making these reissues in the 1960s and 1970s. Finally, they got to their senses in the 1980s. And I have here Elvis Presley, his first album, and this is the reissue from 1985 that was made at the time that Elvis Presley would have celebrated his 50th birthday. And here it says, restored to original mono, digitally remastered. Well, of course the digitally stuff wasn't that nice, but that's what was being used back then. But restored to original mono. So during the most part of the 60s and 70s, this recording or this record or the songs of this record weren't you couldn't really find them or buy them in mono, but they came to the senses and started realizing, well, maybe putting mono or putting stereo effects to mono records weren't such a good idea. Right, that was a bit about mono. Right, I'm going to show you a nice bunch of Elvis records that I got hold of recently. Sorry. First we have Elvis Today from 1975. I've already got this one, but my copy is, or my previous copy was badly warped, so you couldn't really play the first track on each side, so I've got an upgraded copy now. This is an American issue, by the way, on the with the tan label. Right, then we have a bunch of German 1960s pressings with a black RCA label. We have Elvis for Everyone. I'd like to add that I have all these albums already, but later 1970s pressings with a, well, most of all with an orange label, maybe some British UK RCA International green label, but these are from the 1960s. Clambake. This is, I think, the first pressing from 1967. Quite badly worn, but played very good. Looked horrible, but played good. Let's not talk that much about the context. Well, but Guitar Man is a great song. Right. Date with Elvis. Oh yeah, check this. This shows that it isn't a 1950s issue, it's a 1960s issue with the electronic stereo effect. Because this was issued in 1959. I think the first Elvis album that was issued in a proper stereo version was Elvis is Back from 1960. Right, this is an odd one. GI Blues. It has a 70s sleeve with a 1970s RCA logo, but it has the black German RCA label. Kissing Cousins, another oddity, because it has a stereo sleeve and a mono record. I don't mind because I like the mono records here. Loving You. This must have been a reissue because it's stereo. The first Loving You weren't issued in stereo, so this is probably some sort of electronic stereo effect on it as well. Girl Happy. Not that good, but still fun to have. And another one that's not that good. Double Trouble, but still part of the collection, and now I have it on a German 1960s pressing as well. Right, that's all for now. Bye bye.